Hello everybody, Jade Hamilton here again with a multiplicity of themes today, because I meant to do yesterday and I didn't, so I apologise. I have got another of my new little cubs with me. Now this is Zipporah, which is a wonderful Hebrew name. It means bird. It's lovely, beautiful. She's Zipporah Esther, and she is tiny. She's only 15 inches tall, and she's seated, which is quite deceiving as well. It makes her look even smaller. And she is a Seasons of Hugs summer bear, and she's got beautiful rainbows all over her lovely fluffy cloudy white fur. And because of the rainbow, I decided to call her Zipporah, because that meant I could call her Zippy for short. And as a lot of my friends and subscribers over in the UK will know, Zippy is a character from the children's series Rainbow, which was very big when I was a very tiny little girl in the late 80s. And my nickname as a child for years was Zippy, because I never shut up. Zippy and I, as I say, we're joining in a few themes today. We're joining in Tiny Reborn Tuesday, which is with our lovely friend Mel and Amorè Nursery. We're joining in Romper Wednesday, which is with Cindy at Cindy's Baby Loves. And we're also joining in, sort of, Mummy's cheating a bit, because I'm the one in pink today, but we're joining in On Wednesdays We Wear Pink, which was with Shara at Reborn Living Dolls. Although Zippy does have a little bit of pink in her outfit. This is originally from George. It's a beautiful sleeveless lemon yellow romper. It buttons up at the back. It's got these beautiful white snowflake-like polka dots all over it, and it's also got little ice cream and ice lolly appliques on it, which do have some pink in them. They've got little pink rouged cheeks, and this ice lolly that I'm looking at here has got, I think, what's meant to be a raspberry layer in this beautiful deep pink, and a coral coloured stick there. It's beautiful. Underneath it, because I try not to put my little ones in sleeveless rompers with nothing underneath, she's wearing a beautiful little preemie sized floral vest. I got both of these little outfits from the same lady on eBay. I can't remember for the life of me what her shop is called. I do have it saved in my cellars, but I will look it up. It is absolutely gorgeous on her. It's a little bit tight on Zippy though, because she is a bit Ben and Jerry's chunky monkey in as far as her limbs are concerned. But she does look so adorable in it. She's also got on this beautiful blue and yellow and, well, it's rainbow stripes. A rainbow striped bib against a grey ground, which has got this beautiful cobalt blue trim and cobalt blue backing. And the label on the front says The Baby Patch with a little smiley face. Which, when I found it, when I was looking through one of my many bags of bits, really made me smile, because it made me think of Dee. Zippy she's another of my little bears that I found, as I say, on eBay. She may need to go to the dog hospital though, because it looks like she's got a bit of a poorly mouth. So I might have to see if I can get that repaired for her. I absolutely adore her. She's so incredibly soft and strokeable. But if you haven't subscribed to Shara Reborn Living Dolls, who does On Wednesdays We Wear Pink, Mel, who does Tiny Reborn Tuesday, or Cindy at Cindy's Baby Loves, who does Romper Wednesday, they're lovely ladies with lovely babies. Oh, and while I remember, I'm also going to tag in the lovely Linda at Linda's Romper Room, who does Teddy Bear Tuesday, and my lovely friend Jay at JDolls UK, who does the hashtag New Doll Clothes. If you haven't subscribed to Linda, Jay, Cindy, Mel, or who was it else I was? Yeah. If you haven't subscribed to any of those lovely ladies, do. They're all wonderful in their different ways, and they all bring so much to this community and deserve a lot more subs. So do give them some love if you can. Right, now on to our story, which is more of Ella on the Outside by Kath Howe. As per all videos where I read, all copyright goes to Kath Howe and Nosy Crow. I own absolutely nothing. Make yourself comfortable, grab yourself a drink, grab a blanket if you're chilly, or a fan if you're warm. Make yourself really super comfy, and we'll start with the chapter that we're on, which is chapter 10. Here we go. So, on eBay, and this I think was another of my, oh, goodness me, I don't know what happened there. I think I had another of my videos open. I apologise. Right, let's try that again. On eBay, and this I think was another of my, oh dear, never mind. Let's have a little look at this then. Oh, blimey. I'm going to pause you for a second, gang, because I clearly have absolutely no chill with technology today. I'll get the story up and I'll see you in a second. Righty ho, gang. We're on chapter 10, which is called Shopping Disaster. So here we go. Dear Dad, do you remember when you and me and Jack went on the pedalo boats in Spain on that lake and your phone fell out of your pocket down into the water and you just laughed and said the fish would have to talk to your boss instead of you? It was so sunny and hot. Mum made me wear long sleeves, and when we were on the beach she said I couldn't paddle because my feet were bad. And you said, well, you wouldn't paddle either. And then Jack filled a bucket in the sea and came right back all the way with it and said, look, it's all right because I brought the sea to you. Do you ever do a thing where you can't picture someone's face and you're really worried you won't recognise them? As long as I keep looking at the photo of us all by my bed, I think I can sort of learn you. The best thing would be if you still had that red shirt. I don't know where your home clothes went. Do you still look the same? You haven't got a beard, have you? Love, Ella. Kiss, kiss, kiss. The next day was Saturday. Near tea time, Mum sent me to the small co-op supermarket round the corner. The doors swished open, and there was Molly Gardner, right next to me in the fruit and veg aisle. Molly's trolley was almost full. Our eyes met. Molly looked away. I collected the yogurts and milk Mum had asked me to get. At the till, Molly was in front of me. I waited, staring at her grubby grey tracksuit, the same one she'd been wearing when Mum and I went to our house. Her black curly hair was tied back with a rubber band. She didn't turn. Could I ask some questions the way Lydia wanted me to? All the people in the queue would listen. What could I say? Hello, Molly. Please tell me everything there is to know about you right now. I chickened out. She filled 5 carrier bags. She bought the whole shop. Molly set off up the street before me. I could see her, head down, loaded up. But then suddenly lots of tins and packets fell out of her arms. Oh no, she moaned. One of her bags must have split. She sank to her knees on the pavement, juggling shopping. A can rolled off the pile of bags and hit the pavement. An old lady dodged it as it rolled into the gutter. I ran up. I'll help you, I said, bending to grab a pack of yogurts that was tangled up in the broken bag and putting a loaf of bread from the top of the pile. Thanks, Molly murmured. I went on, transferring shopping into my bag and picking things up off the ground. We both stood up. Now we had to walk back to Molly's house together. She didn't speak. I didn't either. I'm actually helping you, I wanted to say. Couldn't you just talk to me? We went down her path. Now what? She wasn't exactly going to invite me inside, was she? She unlocked the door. Here you are, I said, passing her the shopping in the doorway. I turned to go. I should get home. My mum's waiting. No, Molly gulped a huge breath. Stay and have some lemonade, please. Molly Gardner was asking me in. If you just wait, I'll open the side gate, she said in a voice I hadn't heard before, pleading. I'll only be a minute. We locked eyes. Okay, I said. She closed the front door. I texted Mum. Met a school friend in our road. Back in 20 minutes. Oh, hang on. Sorry, gang. Lost my place. I texted Mum. Met a school friend in our road. Back in 20 minutes. I stood, puzzled, staring at all the go away stickers, and then went round to the side gate by the road and waited to be let in. Old Molly Gardner. Why had she suddenly decided to be friendly? Think how excited Lydia would be. I could imagine her as if I had a mini Lydia on my shoulder going, "Hey, Molly let you in. I told you were clever. Hey, you're in. I told you were clever, sorry." Molly's garden wasn't really a proper garden. It was just the back of a house and a square of tangled weeds and one tree. Then at the end there was a long shed. 2 glasses of lemonade sat beside a coat laid on the long grass. I waded over, weeds tickling my legs, pretending this was normal. "Sit down," Molly said. I sat. Now I could hardly see for all the grass towering over me. "Does my jumper fit you all right?" Molly gazed at the back door of her house, fingering the sides of her glass as if she were talking to the back door, really. "Was someone in the kitchen?" I craned to see through the windows, but it just looked dark in there. "Yeah." I sipped my lemonade. My glass didn't look very clean. It had greasy fingerprints. I looked down into the bubbles. "I'm sorry your shopping broke. They're not strong, those shop bags," I said. Molly nodded. Silence fell. There wasn't anything to do in this garden. You couldn't play with a ball. You'd just lose it in the long grass. "Just a minute." Molly got up, pushed her way down the garden, and disappeared inside the shed at the end. She kept going off to places. She came out of the shed carrying a brush and what looked like a cat, but I realised it was the white rabbit. I stopped myself from saying, "Oh, I've already met him." Close up, he was creamy white and fat with long limbs and a huge rabbit face with the floppiest long ears. Molly held him up as if she'd won him. She smiled. I'd never seen her smile before. "This is Nelson." She sat down on the coat beside me, hauled him onto her knee, and began brushing and murmuring to him. "Oh, you are lucky," I said. "Pets and fur and eczema don't go together," Mum says. "I've never had a pet. My brother would love one. How much does he eat?" "Oh, Nelson eats loads, don't you?" Molly kissed him on the nose. "There's a greengrocer on the main road. He saves the veg trimmings for me." "How old is he?" 5. "He's really big." Molly definitely seemed much happier now Nelson was here. "You're gorgeous, aren't you?" she told the rabbit, as if he might join in talking any minute, but he just wiggled his nose. Molly glanced at me. "Whenever I can't sleep, I come down and talk to him. I tell him everything." I stared round the garden across the sea of stalks and shaggy heads. I'd never seen a garden with no proper plants and just a dead-looking tree in the middle. How odd! A house with too much in it and a garden with nothing. Molly hadn't said anything useful yet. Are there some more people in your family?" I asked. Her mouth twitched. "No." She buried her face in Nelson's fur, murmuring, "He can hop really far." "My brother is called Jack," I said, deciding to tell her about me instead. "He's 6. Molly looked up. "I'd like a brother." She pulled hairs out the brush and brushed again. Nelson stretched himself across her legs. "You can have him," I murmured, taking a long sip of my lemonade. I love lemonade. This was true. I wasn't allowed it very often. "My mum's a computer programmer," I told her. "That's why we moved, because Mum got a new job." Molly looked away. "I haven't got a computer," she said in a fierce sort of voice. "I have to use the one at school." We both slurped lemonade again. Molly got up. "Come and see Nelson's cage." I blinked in the gloomy shed, trying to look interested in her rabbit hutch, breathing in the sweet rabbity smell. I stared at Nelson's water bottle and the bags of rabbit food and bedding. There wasn't anything else to see. Nelson's allowed anywhere, but he usually sleeps in here. Molly said. When we came out into the sunshine again, Molly slid down between the shed and the fence and grabbed a fistful of leaves. "Dandelions," she said, "his favourite." Then, sudden and loud, from the house again came, "Moles!" Then louder, "Moles!" That woman's voice calling, just like last time. Chapter 11. Ella Criminella. Dear Dad, last night I dreamed you came home just for an evening because the prison was closed. Maybe it was a holiday. All the prisoners came rushing out and you were all holding a special cake for your families, and you rushed up to me and hugged me. Then you disappeared. You were in a bright green jacket. Ella, kiss, kiss, kiss. Molly looked terrified. She bundled the huge rabbit into my arms and stuffed the leaves in my hands. "Take care of him," she said, running away. The kitchen door clunked shut. Nelson was really heavy, heavier than the shopping, and solid, with clambering legs that dug in. My hands seemed to prickle. What if I was allergic? Why had Molly made me hold him anyway? Couldn't I just let him hop around? He seemed too fat to run fast. I eased him down onto the coat beside me with his leaves and clicked 3 pictures on my phone, sending them straight to Lydia. I texted, Operation 13, here's Molly's rabbit eating. Nelson's machine-like jaws polished off the leaves so quickly. He stretched and seemed to gather his back legs into himself. Maybe sometimes with the grass so long, he got lost, and Molly had to use a fishing net to find him. I picked him up again and wandered a little way towards the kitchen. It was a greenish kind of dark inside. The paint was peeling off the window. I walked back down the garden and took Nelson to see the fence. He must have seen it. He must have seen it before. Rabbits don't say anything. He can't have been very impressed. How long was Molly going to be? I looked back at the house. There was a feeling of secrets at Molly's. I sat down on the coat again, in a sort of rabbit bundling way, managing not to drop Nelson. He lolled there on my knee, a great big body sniffing at the grass round us. I began to like the feeling, the vibration of him. Molly came out from the back door again and sat down. Sorry, she said. Did someone call you? I asked softly. Molly made a tiny sound. Her whole body sagged, as if someone had unpacked all her stuffing. Her eyes flicked back to the house. She scooped Nelson off my knees. All in a rush, she said, Mum's busy. She collects furniture. Her face had that fierce look again, as if she was saying, Don't ask me about this. She hugged Nelson to her. Don't go in my house, she said. Don't ever go in my house. Her words felt like a slap. Furious. She still didn't look at me, just stroked Nelson's ears over and over. That's how you lie. It's very hard to lie and look in into a person's eyes. That's why teachers make you look at them. There had to be something really scary inside Molly's house. No, I won't, I said. She looked like she might cry. Why was her face so sad? Why had she spoken to me like that? I couldn't tell her that I'd already been inside her house. Molly, I began. But my phone beeped. A message from Lydia. Clever old Ella Criminella. Can't wait to hear all the goss. I have to go, I said. Mum's invited someone. On Monday, at lunchtime, Lydia beckoned me over to sit on the field with Rachel, Sophie and Emmy. They were discussing the teachers' first names. The others seemed to know nearly all of them. Mr. Goldman is Charlie and Miss Evans is Helen. She looks like Helen, Sophie said. What about Mr. Gibbons? Rachel asked. No one's found out his. Wonky plonky brain, Emmy suggested. Stop it, Emmy, this is serious, Lydia said. No, it isn't, Emmy said. Lydia's face was concentrating. Okay then, does anyone know Miss Stevenson's? I think she's an Amy. You can sometimes find out teachers' names if you just listen when they talk to other teachers and pretend you're not really there. The drinking fountain's a good place, or carrying things by the office. I know when Mr. Hales's birthday is. 29th of May, Amy said. Lydia scrunched up her eyes against the sun. I know that anyway. She shielded her eyes with her hand, gazing at Amy. If your eyebrows meet in the middle, does that mean you're turning into a wolf? Amy's fingers flew to the space above her nose. Everyone giggled. I joined in. I didn't think Amy looked odd at all, but everyone else was laughing. Amy sprang up. You're not funny. Her mouth was wobbling, like Jack's does sometimes. My mum says people have different amounts of hair. It's just normal. Lydia stretched her legs out. She let out a little growl. Stop it, Amy said. Lydia growled louder. Amy walked away, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand. Sorry, I think I missed a bit. Amy sprang up. You're not funny. Her mouth was wobbling, like Jack's does sometimes. My mum says people have different amounts of hair. It's just normal. Lydia stretched her legs out. She let out a little growl. Stop it, Amy said. Lydia growled louder. Amy walked away, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand. Ella and me are going to talk alone now, Lydia told the office. All right, Sophie said crossly. Be like that. She got up and strutted away, arm in arm with Rachel. Lydia pulled me closer. Back to Operation 13. She linked her arm into mine. I need my Ella Criminella. I felt a kind of jolt hearing that name again. I don't like that name, it's horrible. But Lydia poked me hard. It's a joke, it's funny. She pointed to Molly, bent over her notebook on the wall. First things first, Molly's dad? I still don't know about him, I said, feeling odd about that question. She said there was just her and her mum. I remembered the fierce way Molly had told me. Didn't you see any other people at her house? I felt as if I were a witness in a trial. I didn't go inside this time, I said. We sat in her garden. But she said her mum's a furniture collector. Couldn't you have gone to the loo? She didn't want me to. She's got a rabbit. She really loves it, kissing it like mwah mwah. I had to look after it when someone called. Was that when you sent me the photo? And that was when you sent me the photo? Could be anyone's rabbit. But we know it's hers. It's not very interesting. Lots of people have rabbits, Lydia said. Tell me about the first time you went inside. Well, I pictured the dark room, the hand stretched out to me. I saw a person, a long, trailing sort of dark cloak, a really long white hand That is so creepy, Lydia murmured, squeezing my arm. Hey, Ella, I know what. Molly's dad got turned into a rabbit. He's under a spell. I laughed. Lydia pretended to have rabbit ears, waggling her hands above her head. That's it. You said she kissed her rabbit all the time. Maybe she's trying to get her dad back. It's like the Frog Prince, only with rabbits. She did her high, trilling laugh, like music. That's it. My clever Ella Criminella. Her mum makes her dad disappear, and those piles of things in the house, they're the enchanted palace. It's like Rapunzel in the tower, or Sleeping Beauty. Lydia's face suddenly switched to serious and fixed. Go and sit with Molly when we go back this afternoon. I didn't know what to say. No one sits next to her. She'll let you, Lydia said. She must like you. She invited you. You have to do this, Ella. Oh dear. Lydia seems to be ramping up her nasty behaviour, doesn't she? Let's see what she gets up to in chapter 12. Investigating. Right, let's go. Dear Dad, the art room at Moor Lane is full of things to draw. There's a skeleton in a bowler hat. Miss Denby showed us how to make photos with pictures of things called still lifes. If I go to a place and take a photo, I just select, zoom, click. Maybe I could work for a newspaper. Hope your food is getting better. Jack hid some broccoli in a plant. I've been looking after your crocodile keyring with the big wide mouth. Do you remember when I gave it to you for your birthday? Here's a photo of a squirrel on the tree outside my bedroom window. A pet rabbit and one of Jack making his cold custard face. Isn't the rabbit fat? He's called Nelson. Love, Ella. Kiss, kiss, kiss. I joined the line-up, and when I got back into Willow class, I went to the back of the classroom where Molly had already sat down. I stood there holding my bag. Molly looked slowly up at me, piled up her things, and made space for me. Thanks, I said, and sat down. Oh, wow! It worked! I waited a bit and then grinned over at Lydia, but I couldn't catch her eye. She was giggling with Sophie. Being Lydia's friend sometimes felt as if it felt like a thin thing, a thing that might melt away. And just for a horrid moment, I felt as if they might be giggling about me. But then I thought, no, Lydia's just excited. I still wish she'd look at me, though. Molly did talk to me a little bit, but with comments like, have you finished? Or, can I turn it over now? When we shared a worksheet, I showed her one of my answers to a question about owl pellets. She worked so quietly, she could almost not have been there. I didn't feel as if me being next to her mattered. Maybe she was thinking about something else when she was in school. There was a smell around Molly too. Old clothes. I wished I was next to Lydia. It couldn't hurt Molly though, could it? Me finding things out? That afternoon, Mrs. Reynolds selected Jack first because he got out 5 minutes before me from the other playground. She and Jack were waiting when Mr. Hales let us out. Mrs. Reynolds waved. "Is that your grandma?" Lydia asked, appearing beside me. "No, she's a childminder," I said, then added quickly, "for Jack." Mrs. Reynolds went on sitting in the sunshine with her stick next to her, and Jack leaping behind her along the planter, while all the other mums and dads talked to each other. I had to point out her out to Mr. Hales so he would let her collect me. "Why is she so old?" Lydia asked. I shrugged. She just is. "We mustn't forget about Operation 13, Lydia said. "Sit with Molly tomorrow." "But I..." "Gotta dash, criminella," Lydia said. "Write it down like a proper investigator. I need to find Immy." I wish Mrs. Reynolds only collected Jack. Nearly everyone in my class was allowed to walk home on their own or with a friend. I rushed into the office to collect my phone, and that made me feel better because I could play on it all the way home until Mrs. Reynolds said, "Put that away now, Ella, unless you have an actual call to make." I gaped at her. I hadn't had my phone all day, and now she was stopping me having it for no reason. Mrs. Reynolds' face had very papery skin. She tucked her stick under her arm and reached out to take my hand. I pulled away. Did she think I was a baby? Jack flung her arm around on the other side, and she wobbled and nearly fell over. "All right then, let's agree that you both walk sensibly beside me," she said, starting to lean on the stick again. "How was your day?" We walked home very slowly. At home she made us wash our hands, and then we had juice and biscuits. She wasn't that bad. Just kept asking me things, especially maths things. She made us do homework. Jack read her his reading book and I filled in 2 sheets. Then Mrs. Reynolds checked them as if she was the teacher. I was getting sick of having to be good. I would have done all the maths questions in the world soon. Then Mrs. Reynolds suddenly said, "Telly on!" She switched on a quiz. The contestants were being asked about geography and books and European football clubs, and Mrs. Reynolds started shouting out the answers from the kitchen while she made pasta sauce. I wondered if Mum had told Mrs. Reynolds about Dad. He loves quizzes. My dad, the Cubs' Dundad, loves quizzes too. We both do, actually. I think I get it from him. We used to go through quiz books a lot when I was a kid and work all the answers out. It was great fun. So I think that bit of being looked after by Mrs. Reynolds would be quite nice. And with Ella on the maths questions though, that would be a bit more difficult. I'm actually quite good at mental maths, but I don't particularly like it very much. Jack and I were allowed upstairs now. I could still hear Mrs. Reynolds shouting answers, as if she were one of the contestants in the TV studio too, Jack called me a slug, and I slammed my bedroom door so he couldn't come in, and sat on my bed. I made a list of things I already knew about Molly, and I pinned it up like a police chief. Molly Gardner is very tall. She lives at number 13 Ash Grove. She goes to Moor Lane School. She is in Willow class. She has a rabbit called Nelson. Her back garden is a mess. Her house is full of furniture and odd things in the wrong places. Someone is in her house. They are wearing a long black coat and they have a white hand. Molly shops at the co-op. She always has a notebook with her. She seems scared. She often wears trainers, but the teachers don't tell her off. Why? She hardly ever gives her homework, but Mr. Hales doesn't get cross. Why? Lydia thinks her mum is a witch and she turned her dad into a rabbit. Chapter 13. Something strange. Dad, I've been thinking about the view out of your window. I would not like to see only a wire fence. From my classroom we can see playing fields and a line of back gardens, and from home I can see our new garden and the tree. I would never throw things out of my window. That sounds bad. You don't do it, do you? If a person is in prison and they do a bad thing, do they get punished? I know you said you don't like hearing keys jingling, but maybe when you come home you might change your mind. It's raining today. Great big fat drops. I got wet coming home. Do prisoners have raincoats with hoods or umbrellas? Can you jump in the puddles? If you all jumped at once, would it make a big wave? Mum is very busy at work. She even works in bed. I'm sorry you can't have your own phone. Could you borrow one really quickly and text me a picture of you with your friends? Someone must have one. Even Mrs. Reynolds has one, and she is old and doesn't like it much. I showed her how to change the ringtone. She's got a jungle one now, and she laughs every time it rings. But that doesn't happen very often. Here is a photo of Mum and me and Jack that Mrs. Reynolds took. Love, Ella. Kiss, kiss, kiss. I didn't want to sit with Molly. but I did it all the rest of that week. Molly didn't seem to care either way. She seemed gloomy, busy in her head, and she dashed away to her notebook half the time. There wasn't much to report. Molly sighed a lot. She was a miserable kind of person, I decided. I made careful notes for Lydia. Molly's lunch. Molly has some bread and cheese and an apple for lunch. Pencils. She doesn't even have her own colouring pencils. Number 1. Molly's lunch. Molly has some bread and cheese and an apple for lunch. Pencils. She doesn't even have her own colouring pencils. She never puts her hand up. Notebook, of course. Number 4. Notebook, of course. She has that out a lot at break and lunchtime. It is a little woven one with a cord wrapped round it and white pages. Did you look inside it? Lydia asked. No, I said. I've never had a chance. Molly's always there. Number 5. Bank card. Molly has a red bank card in her rucksack. I saw it when she was putting her lunchbox back. I made sure Lydia knew that. She does have money. I said, how much? She has a bank card for getting money out. I could tell I'd impressed her. Really? Do you think she's rich then? Lydia asked. She doesn't look as if she's got loads of money. Lydia's eyes were shining. Wish I had a bank card. I'd spend £1 million before Mum and Dad even noticed the card was gone. Oh dear, that doesn't seem very nice, does it? Doesn't seem very responsible. What's that, Zippy? You think Molly has to have a bank card because she helps her mummy? Ah, like we're doing the shopping? Oh, yeah. Yes, I think you might be right. I think she has to help her mummy out because her mummy's a bit poorly, maybe. I was sure Lydia was pleased with me now. She must be, but she was frowning. Operation 13 is not very interesting yet, is it? She said, get Molly to sit next to you, to invite you again. She might not. Oh, Ella! Interview people then. If you found out something interesting, I'd ask Mum if you could come to my house for tea. For tea? My stomach felt squirmy. That would only be if I found out more. If I found out more. Hang on. More exciting by now. I thought you would have found out something really exciting. If I found out more, Lydia pouted. I thought you would have found out something really exciting by now. It's not like Molly's a master criminal or something. She giggled. I expect you'd know a lot more about that kind of thing. I stared at her. Master criminal? That kind of thing. But then Lydia squeezed my arm and tickled me. Only joking, she called. Mustache, I'm going round to Rachel's. I felt a sudden pang of aloneness. I wish Grace was with me again, and I could go around to her house the way I used to. Grace who understood. Grace who was kind. Hurt feelings still flooded me, even after Lydia danced away to get her bag. Did she think I knew lots of criminals? Was that why she'd made up that name for me? All the rest of the day, sitting beside grumpy Molly Gardner, I worried about whether Lydia would tell anyone the truth about my dad, if she thought it was funny or didn't matter. I studied the other girls. On the sleepover, Hannah, Rachel, Sophie, Immy, Zing. I watched them all tell stories and chat, standing quietly near them. Did they think I was a criminal sort of person? None of them spoke to me very much. Was that because they didn't think I was a nice person? I'd find out more about Molly. That was what Lydia had asked me to do. I volunteered to pick up extra shopping we needed at the co-op. Mrs. Reynolds gave me the money in a bag and said, "That's the sort of girl I want to see." I stood with my shopping at the till and decided to ask the co-op lady some questions. "Do you know Molly Gardner?" I asked. I know everyone, love. I've known the Gardners for years as it happens. Are you buying that broccoli?" "Oh yes, please." I opened my shopping bag and she began scanning things. I saw she had a badge on her uniform saying, "My name's Gemma. I'm here to help." That made me feel better. It's just we need to speak to her mum or dad about some furniture. My mum wants to buy some. I clutched my money, rolling the coins around between my fingers. "Sorry, can't help you there. You'll have to ask her." "Well, we're new and nobody answered the door." I could feel my face getting red. "Maybe they don't want any callers then." Gemma eyed me sharply. Lydia would think I hadn't tried hard enough. I could imagine her piercing eyes. "But you must know if Molly's mum does her shopping here," I said. The lady frowned. She opened her mouth, but she seemed to decide not to say something and shut it hard. I just wondered if it was Molly's mum who put the advert in your window about the school uniform. "I bought a jumper," I said. Gemma's face became the telling off face grown-ups use. Some people ask too many questions," she said. "Now off you go. I've people to serve." Her voice echoed as I walked away. I rushed home with the shopping and a great big smile on her face. A thrill kept running through me. There was definitely a mystery. Lydia was bound to invite me to her house now. Right. Chapter 14. You're a photographer. Dear Dad, I don't have the swing set. I think it got broken when we moved. I would like to get a trampoline, but Mum said it would fill the whole garden, so forget it. I think you would like a trampoline too, Dad. Jack can tie his tie now. He's not very good at it though. The teachers help them take them off. Otherwise the whole PE lesson gets wasted. He's got lots of friends. Why do you keep asking about Jack? He's not even bothering to write to you. Love, Ella. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Lydia had lots of ideas at the next art club when I told her about the lady from the co-op and the warning. Maybe Molly's parents had a battle and her mum shot her dad with an old-fashioned gun, she whispered, choosing a green pencil and drawing a hard line across her paper. Maybe she buried the dad under the floor and they collected all that furniture to put on top. Or Ella, maybe she keeps him prisoner behind the fireplace and feeds him only at weekends, or... I got tired of listening. I found myself only answering some of Lydia's questions, or just nodding. I wanted to think about my picture. The sea cave was taking shape. The room became quieter, except for people humming to the radio. "Great work, Ella," said Miss Denby every time she passed. "It's odd how it's always more beautiful if you rip the paper. Have you done this kind of collage before?" "No," I said, "but I like it." After half an hour, Lydia had begun to really annoy me. Her voice got harder to ignore, and she was complaining again. "Why won't Miss Denby come over and help me?" she whinged. She's been over that 10 times already, I thought. You wave your hand around so much, you look like a scarecrow in a high wind. "Yours is really good," Lydia said, poking my sea picture, lifting up the glued edges on one side. "That place there needs more bits, though. Do you want me to stick some more on?" "No," I said. I held my hand over it. "Do you want to borrow my brush pen?" Lydia asked next. "No thanks, it's fine." "Miss, mine's rubbish," Lydia shouted. "I'm stuck." Lydia's picture was okay, but she never sat and thought, just splashed paint. She reminded me of Jack doing art, all accidents and mess. "I'm helping Hanson," called Miss Denby from the other side of the art room. "You've only just started, Lydia. See if you can solve the problem on your own." At the end of the club, everyone propped up their work, and Miss Denby talked about what they were each working on. "Very impressive, Lydia. Very expressive, Lydia," she said. Lydia scowled. Miss Denby moved on to mine. "Ella took this photo herself. See how the dark cave interior frames the photo? Great composition, Ella. You're a photographer. Photos can sometimes get right inside the heart of a thing. When you finish the collage, how about creating some more of your interesting photos?" I loved the idea. I was so lit up about it. I told Mum at bedtime. "Miss Denby, my art teacher, wants me to do more photography." "That's great," said Mum. "I'm glad you're loving the phone. We must tell Grandma." I started to look out for more things to photograph. I love little details, like the speckles on a bunch of bananas. Maybe my camera could help with Operation 13. Photos could give me clues. I would investigate more now that I was a photographer. Every evening, Mrs. Reynolds began watching her quiz at 5 o'clock, from "Welcome to your host" until the news. Jack and I were allowed to play in our rooms. She didn't call us down to wash our hands for tea for a whole 45 minutes. So I waited till the quiz started, then nipped out of the front door instead of going upstairs. First, I looked for lights on in the windows at number 13. With my nose squashed up against a hole in the fence, I could see a light on, even though it wasn't dark yet. I could see shapes in there. I could even make out voices. If I fitted my phone in a knot hole in the fence, I could take a picture of the kitchen window. I observed Molly's house on Tuesday and Wednesday. I filed in my notebook. Kitchen light on at 5 p.m. Back door shut. Nelson in garden. Kitchen light on at 5:20 p.m. Voices. Radio. Back door shut. Not very interesting. On Thursday evening, I heard someone behind me when I just put my phone up to the hole in the fence. I swung round to find Jack looking thrilled with himself. "What are you doing, Ella? Go away." "No, not till you tell me what you're doing." "I'm a detective." "A spy," I said. His little face lit up. "I can take pictures, put together clues," I told him. "Why?" "Because I want to find out things." I showed him how I can take a picture through the fence. "You have to be older to have a phone and investigate like this. You're not mature enough," I told him. "Well, I am mature," he said. And spies don't use phones. They use magnifying glasses and they dust for fingerprints." "How do you know?" "I just do." His mouth wobbled. "Oh, Ella, you'll get in trouble." "No, I won't. You can stay if you're quiet." Jack put his finger to his lips. As Jack and I stared, a dark, flapping shape appeared in the kitchen. The long, trailing arm made it look like a strange shadow puppet floating in the air. "What's that?" "What's that?" Jack squealed. "I don't know. I can't see properly." I held my phone in the gap. Click. "I don't like it here, Ella." Jack whispered. "What if it comes out and gets us?" I pushed him away. "I told you weren't mature enough. Just go home." The dark shape had gone out of view now. A sound began in the house, a rasping, choking sort of cough. You have to come too. You have to come too." Jack's voice rose to a wail. He cupped my arm. "Jack, you're a pain," I said, steering him towards home. "You're not coming again." I checked the photo when I got in. "Is it a witch?" Jack whispered. "Or is it Batman?" "It's too blurry," I said. You could see the person shape, the long floating arms. Maybe Lydia would be pleased with that. She might. "Here is the creature from the Black Lagoon," I texted, sending her the photo. I lay in the dark later, thinking about Molly's house and listening to the clicking of Mum working on her computer downstairs. Even though I liked making up the story with Lydia, I hadn't liked hearing the coughing. People don't cough in fairy tales. I dreamed about the inside of number 13, but it had grown into a huge maze, eerie shapes and towers, and the white rabbit hopping, always a little way in front, that bobbing white, then disappearing out of that bobbing white tail, just disappearing out of view, leading me always to the figure in black with the trailing arms, trapping me. Right, we're going to leave it there for now. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, commenting. It really makes my day when you do. And Zipporah and I will see you soon for another story. Can you wave, Zipporah? Good girl. Thank you for watching, everybody. Cheerio.